Bless the Lord, O my soul, who crowneth thee with loving kindness and tender mercies, who satisfieth thy mouth with good things. Psalms 103. The teacher asked the pupils to tell the meaning of loving kindness. A little boy jumped up and said, "Well, if I was hungry and someone gave me a piece of bread, that would be kindness. But if he put a little jelly on it, it would be loving kindness." Going the second mile. The second mile is the fun mile. The first mile, that's our duty. But the second mile, I heard Josephine Cunnington Edwards tell the story about the second mile. The second mile is going further than you really have to. And that's the fun mile. In the laundromat. I read you one other story about the laundromat, but this is another interesting one by T. Davis. Rain splashed down the foggy windows in dispirited torrents. The asthmatic wheeze of the dryers was accompanied by the rhythmic click-clack of the washers. Small children with dripping noses and grime-smeared faces careened around the grungy laundromat floor until they were caught short by hard-faced mothers who screamed at them to cut out that noise. Each time the door opened, billows of cigarette smoke rushed in on the clammy air. I sat silent and withdrawn, cold, damp, and depressed. Burnout and an ulcer at age 24 had ended my job as a remedial teacher for a state group home. David and I had been out of college and married for only a year, and our slender finances dictated that we spend every other Sunday in a laundromat, no washing machine, trying to keep up with our housekeeping chores. The cheapest laundromat we found was dirty and filled with people from all walks of life. A timid Latina who spoke little English peddled personalized embroidered ink pen covers for only $4. Only $4. Clunking over the floor in his sharp-toed cowboy boots, a tiny dark-haired boy played peekaboo with his sister, showing his silver-capped front teeth in a happy smile. In the eyes of the faces around me, I saw my students, and my insides shriveled. I had loved teaching. My students had caught my heart with their stories. There was Evangeline, a 12-year-old prostitute who was a math whiz but could not read. Jamie was a gang member with bullets still embedded beneath the skin in his arm and in his leg. He had started cutting school in the 4th grade to be a police lookout for his older brothers now at 15. Now at 15, he didn't know his multiplication tables. 17-year-old Sequani teetered between wanting to be a chef and wanting to be a nurse. She studied hard and screamed with rage and frustration over the fraction she had missed in the 6th grade. Tracy had been convicted of involvement in a drive-by shooting at age 16. Her tough mouth and mean exterior almost hid her wide blue eyes that often filled with tears. These children had needs, I idealistically thought I could help fill, but they overwhelmed me. Their needs cried out to me even in my sleep, and soon I was capsized, a small craft on high seas with no shore visible and no lighthouse. Between the overwhelming indifference of the state, the often terrifying incompetence of some of the other teachers, and the sheer stamina it took to deal with the students some days, I lost sight of my vision. I ran away to save what was left, and now sad, guilt, and anger sat with me in that laundromat as I wondered again if I had made the right choice. A whoosh of stale air announced the laundromat's next patrons. 3 teenage boys sporting oversized jeans, shaved heads, and tattoos burst in. The atmosphere tensed as parents pulled their children closer. The teenagers swaggered in, leering at the women and staring challengingly at the few men who were there. "Oh God, why do I have to be here when they're here?" I moaned to myself, feeling a mixture of panic and irritation. Haven't I seen this kind of kid enough? Their loud talk and expletives became the center of attention. 2 of the boys had ridden to the laundromat on BMX bikes and had garbage bags full of dirty clothes balanced on the handlebars. The 3rd boy fished around in the pockets of his army jacket for change to purchase a small box of Tide. They packed all the dirty clothes into one washer. I caught amused glances all around me. These boys obviously had no idea what they were doing. As they went outside to smoke, the amused looks became conversation. "Did you see that? There's no way those clothes will get clean." A gap-toothed woman with blue curlers in her thinning red hair chuckled to the woman next to me. "Serves 'em right," the woman snarled back, filing her fingers and her curved red fingernails. "Coming in here is like they owned the place. Kids these days got no manners." I transferred my loads to the dryer in silence. The boys trooped back in, their clothes carrying the acrid, bitter smell of the cigarettes they'd been bumming. In search of a dryer, they circled the room, intimidating people into taking their clothes out when the machine stopped instead of adding additional quarters. I shrank back into my corner, folding laundry, pretending that I didn't see them. But I had to notice them when they were right next to me, shoving their things into the dryer. Gray water dripped from a shirt, and pieces of twigs and leaves fell onto the floor as they crammed in the clothes. Couldn't they see that those clothes weren't clean? Where have those kids been living? Outside? I frowned and turned away, feeling troubled. Somebody should have taught those kids how to take care of themselves, I thought. A voice from across the room caught my attention. "Boys, boys! No, those aren't clean." I turned in surprise. A short Indian woman wrapped in a patterned tan sari waved her hand to the boys. "Bring those clothes back. They're not clean." The laundromat patron stared at the diminutive woman with her foreign clothes and the red dot on her forehead. I glanced at the boys. Reluctant eyes met. I suddenly realized that the boys knew all along that those clothes were still dirty. "Ain't got enough money," the tallest boy in the camouflage jacket muttered, sticking out his chin. His eyes looked up. His eyes hooded. "Bring them back," the woman insisted. "I show you how to fix them." Tentatively, the boys slouched back, carrying armloads of wet clothes. The Indian woman briskly instructed them how to separate clothes. She touched their muddy garments. Their one huge load became 3 smaller loads. She wiped out the washer and got them started again, measuring out her own soap and sliding in her own quarters where theirs ran out. The boys' hunched shoulders and aggressive stanches became relaxed. Light shone in their faces, where there had been no light before. "You'll show us how to work the dryers, too?" I heard one of them exclaim in a boyish voice that cracked and skipped. "You're really nice. I've never met anyone as nice as you." Suddenly, the teenage hoods turned into respectful young men who called everyone ma'am and sir, offering to play with the small children and carry clothes out to the people's cars. These pale young faces, which had looked so identical when they walked in, took on character. Dimples, crooked grins, bright eyes. The rain-damp, smoky, stale air in that laundromat turned into a place filled with the breath of God. In an instant, I was reminded of the psalmist's request to wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. I realized that never had I needed that washing so much. I was soiled and stained with worldly cares. And while Jesus had offered to take the pain and guilt from me, I had been holding on to them. In clutching them to my chest, I had been blinded to the needs of others around me. I could have helped those boys with them. In the gospel stories, Jesus showed us that he wants to make us clean. But the idea of letting God do our dirty laundry is unsettling. Do we let him see all the stains and smears on our souls? He wants to. He has to. We can't get clean by ourselves. Whether we recognize it or not, we're all in need of cleansing. And there's no stain so permanent that it can't be removed by the cleansing power of faith in Jesus. It may seem daunting to us, but it's really a simple thing. All God needs is an invitation. It is such a small thing, so tiny an act to help someone learn to do laundry. In the grand scheme of things, it may seem insignificant, but you can't tell those boys that. And by God's grace, having experienced something of the cleansing power of God's love, maybe the next time I'll be able to extend the hand of God to someone else. Tanita S. Davis writes from Vacaville, California. God bless you.